Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very interesting review impressions of a knife that was loaned to me by one of my subscribers, so I want to say thank you to all my awesome subscribers out there who allow me to borrow some of their knives and take a look at knives that I might otherwise not get a chance to look at, because sometimes they're just knives that maybe I'm not looking to add to my collection. They're just really interesting, but you know, you don't always want to buy them just on a hunch or a whim. And if someone's got one because they really like the aesthetic and they're willing to share it, that's really awesome. So this right here is the Cold Steel Recon 1. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but this is not a small knife. This is a big boy. This is, let's talk a little bit about this. I don't know who the designer is. I know it's a triad lock from what I understand, and I believe that's a Andrew Demko design, but I don't know who did the actual design of the knife. This right here is the Cold Steel Recon 1 clip point, and it's called the Desert Warrior version. So this is with the copper blade. It's called Desert Warrior, and it's S35VN blade steel. That's crucible. It is such a big knife that I have to really do a little wrist flick to get that blade open, right? And there is that triad back lock. It kind of reminds me of like a buck knife, right? So you can do it. It's a little more challenging. And when you drop it, you got to make sure you catch right there. Do you see that? You got to make sure it catches right there so it doesn't guillotine your hand or anything. But this is definitely not a small knife at all. So yeah, I don't know if this was an Andrew Demko design, but I do know he did I'm pretty sure he did the triad lock. But hey, some of you guys who know, maybe who actually did the design of this, can you comment down below? I would be very, very interested in knowing that. And it would be great to have, you know, in the comments so other people can know. Let's talk a little bit about the material. G10 handles, nicely rounded, okay? It's not contoured, but it's rounded well all around. It's a large handle. Relatively deep pocket carry clip, so you're looking probably, yeah, so deep. I mean, for a big knife, that's not bad, right? It does have a lanyard hole. It's not prioritized. It's right next there. And it is reversible deep pocket carry clip, so that's nice. So lefties, you can definitely use that. Being it's a triad lock, so that's very ambidextrous. Excuse me. And it looks like you could very easily reverse this thumb stud. The thumb stud's prioritized for the right hand over here. I think this is really good for big hands, right? So if you choke up on this, you can absolutely choke up on this big boy. But I mean, I could do almost a two-handed knife. You know, it's almost pocket sword worthy right here, right? So it's a big boy. Definitely a little bit bigger than I would ever carry or buy. So, you know, this is definitely out of my normal wheelhouse, if you will, but it's really cool. I gotta admit, it is really cool, and it's completely different. There's some jimping up here that works with the G10, even though this is smooth for the triad lock, and it locks up very solid. No blade play or anything like that, which is awesome. And then when you close it, let's see here, yeah. So once you get you get a certain point that the triad lock will just start pulling the blade close. So there's no like little click there. It wants to close it. So make sure your finger's out of the way so you're not, you know, guillotined. It's got a full black G10 back spacer, which is nice for the large blade. Really good utilization of the blade size to the handle for such a large, you know, knife. I like that a lot. So thumb studs work, you know, very well, and the triad lock, releasing that in the back works really nicely. And then even though it's a very small thumb stud, I can still flick it left-handed over here. You know, it does work, but it's much smaller, so there's that. So if you're lefty and this is your preference and you switch the clip, you know, you could switch that as well. And that's what I would do if I was a lefty for sure, right? Looks like it's a captive pivot, as you can see over here. This is a T8. It might be a T10, but definitely T8. These are all T6s over here, which is kind of a bummer. You'd wish those were a little bit bigger, but T6s. This is a flathead sort of screwdriver, as you can see there. So there's that. It is a clip point, definitely S35VN, flat grind all the way up to the top. Got the little clip, almost looks like a semi-Bowie, but it's not quite as sharp and way out there as a Bowie. Flat grind, pretty sharp, little edge, which is nice for sure. Yeah, so kind of nice. The triad lock works fairly well. You can clip it and drop it, and it, you know, will close pretty well. So I mean, if it can be one-handedly operated, it might, you know, after a while you get used to it, I guess. And maybe if it breaks in or you oil it or something, I don't know how you would do that because I'm not familiar with this type of lock, but maybe it becomes a little easier. Or if you've got big hands, it's probably a lot easier to work with that way. So all right, so anything else? Closing works nicely when you press the triad lock. It does go down pretty well, I think. I do like that a lot. Making sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Yeah, I think so. I think that was it as far as to try, because I'm having to look up a little bit about this. It's not something I'm familiar with. It's my first interaction with a triad lock, so very cool. I thought it was really awesome to be able to check out. It's something I definitely would be out of my wheelhouse, but I can see how some people say this is a good zombie knife, right? Zombie apocalypse knife. I mean, you could definitely use this knife, do some, you know, if you need to cut some fertilizer and mulch or whatever for after you take care of some business there, I guess. I don't know. You know what I mean? So anyways, I guess that would be it, or what they call Friday night Slurpee, you know, knife, I guess. I don't know. To me, it'd be just a great work knife. You know, you could work in the yard. You can do a lot of things. I mean, definitely would be a very robust knife. This lock feels really, really solid. So if I was out in the woods somewhere, I feel like I could probably hammer this knife a bit. This would be one of the stronger knives that I might consider, you know, actually using like a log and hammering and breaking wood with or something. Typically, I would only use a fixed blade for that, right? And that's what I would recommend. But if you're in a pinch, this definitely, I think, could get you through that. So there you go. I don't know what you consider cutout. I mean, I guess it's a good cutout to get to that triad lock. I mean, it's definitely strong and it's hard. And after a while, you know, you're going to have some strength for this gigantic of a knife. So you can definitely feel that part. You know, and it's not a knife that I think I would normally carry because of all of that, but very, very interesting. All right, so let's get into a little bit of the measurements and the weights of the knife, because it is not small. All right, so let's see how much this guy weighs. All right, so 5.42 ounces. So 5.42 ounces. It's definitely got some weight to it, that's for sure. All right, so let's see what the length of it, if we're even close in our, you know, ratios, but it's a big one. All right, so we're looking at a knife over 9¼ inches long. We're looking at from the base, you know, from the tip. If we go right to the tip here, let's go. Yeah, we're just barely right at 4 inches. I mean, it is really close, right? I mean, yeah, it's right at 4 inches. Now the cutting length, we're looking at 3¾ so 3.75 inches of cutting length. If we look at the actual cutting, yep, 3.375 inches. So that's definitely over the 3-inch kind of thing. So as far as the handle, if you go right here where the groove is, we got 4¼ inches. If you were to, oh, let's see, is that reflecting? I don't know. Man, that's not good. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize that was flashing right there. I kind of fixed that. If you choked up on this, you're over 5 inches, right? So let me block that a little bit, the reflection there. So you're over 5 inches. So that's kind of nice. I think that's definitely worthwhile. Pretty cool. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the blade stock thickness without knocking everything down. So we're at 139 hundredths of an inch. So, you know, it's not super thick, but it's not super thin. You know, it's not 1/10 of an inch. It's not 0.12, but it's definitely got a little more robustness to it. But it's not quite 150 hundredths of an inch. So there you go. So that is interesting. All right. So, you know, measurements wise, it will tell you this is definitely a large knife for sure. Where does the knife category, where does this fall? Well, the knife is, I think when I looked at it, it was like $120. So to me, this definitely falls into the regular category of $120. You know, I think this is made in Taiwan, so it's a little better production over there, I think, than regular China. I do like if it's similar plant or facility that other people use in Taiwan. They usually make very, very good quality. I don't know if there's multiple facilities in Taiwan, but I tend to think that, you know, the quality in Taiwan tends to be just a step above what we get in China, right? I mean, with the exception of maybe someone like Riot or something like that, right? So definitely like that for the $120 range for sure. So very cool. All right, purpose. What could this be used for? Well, it definitely could be used for EDC. It definitely wouldn't be a gentleman's pocket knife into church or, you know, to work or something. I mean, unless you work out in the field and you're, you know, a survivalist, I guess. But otherwise, you know, this would be very utilitarian kind of knife. Maybe have it in a car as a survival type of knife for sure, you know, because this would be a beat 'em up, you know, tear it apart kind of type of knife for sure. So there is that. I don't know if I would have this in my personal EDC because of the size. I don't know if this would be a collection piece. I mean, some people might have it as a collection piece just because of the size and the uniqueness of it. And it's just, you know, kind of a nostalgic or even maybe iconic in a sense of some of the Cold Steel designs. So very cool. I think it's pretty neat. All right, ergos and feel, the handle design. So I will tell you, the handle design is pretty amazing for the size of knife. Very nice rounded, like I've already talked about, chamfered here, really comfortable, ergonomic. This is even this sharp point right here that could be, I don't know, uncomfortable, and even this part is pretty chamfered. It does lead you to 2 hands there, so if your hands are much thicker, you may be, it may be uncomfortable, but if your hands are thinner, it's going to spread them out a little bit, and that may be okay too. You got a little chamfering, a little jimping right here in the G10. It does give you some traction. If you want to choke up and put your finger in here and use this flat part of the belly, you can definitely, with this flat part here, get a nice push cut. If you really needed to do that. You could do a reverse cut, but I mean, this doesn't give you the great grip, and it feels like it might roll in my hand. So, pull cut's not going to be as good, I don't think. But definitely very solid presentation, good grip on that. I love the roundedness around the handle. All that is easy to access the triad lock right there, so that's nice. Deployment design, the thumb stud works. I mean, it's big knife, and you've really got to get a good flick and maybe a little wrist flick there if your hands are smaller. I've got medium, large hands. Mine are large width-wise, medium lengthwise, and so reaching that thumb stud and flicking it up far out, this is where if you have larger, extra large, longer fingers, this might be a more comfortable knife, right? So there you go. Deployment design, we talked about that. Really, that's it. There's no other way I could deploy this knife, so that's it. Closing design, simple. The triad lock, you push this in the back, it drops it, closes down, and that's it. So it works really well. It's hard, and it's one of those things I'm not always a fan of these types of lock here, because these tend to hurt your hand after a while, because they're pretty hard to push down. And I guess that they're meant to be that way, to be so solidly locked in, and I get that, and that's fine. But I will tell you, this right here, after a while, I'd want to be able to, I don't know, it's hard to push, and it digs into your hand. So for some people, they're going to love it and they're fine because they're used to it and they're probably got calluses, and so it's perfectly fine, right? Closing design works great. Everything falls and shuts like you want it to. Fidget factor. I mean, you got thumb studs and you got the lock here in the back, and that's it. Really, nothing else. I couldn't possibly even try, let me see. No, I couldn't even possibly, in messing with this, if you don't get it right and your finger slips down there, boy, you're going to slice yourself. So I wouldn't even want to try that. I'd only want to use the thumb studs with that triad lock design. So yeah, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10. I mean, honestly, there's no extra sort of wannabe other means of deployment on this. So it's a 4 out of 10 as far as fidget factor of what you can fidget with. So, that's the best you can get is 4 out of 10. As far as fidgety goodness, for my hand, for my aesthetics, for what I like, I got to give it a 70. I mean, it's going to pass because it works for the size of the knife. It works, right? I can get it to work. I can get it to function. Do a little wrist flip, flick there with the thumb stud. So if I do that, I can get it open. But it's typically I'm used to just being able to flip it without having to do the wrist flick. So yeah, I'll give it a 70. I mean, it works and it closes. It does what it needs to do. But, a lot of that has to do with my personal aesthetic. I think someone with much larger hands are going to find this incredibly ergonomic and friendly. So, I mean, that's why I can't possibly say, I hate it, I don't like it. But I really look at someone for their aesthetic and their size hands. I think they're going to love it. If you've got really big hands, I think this might be something you might want to consider. You really want to check out. I've got, like I said, I've got large hands width-wise. So I have meaty, wide fingers, right? But they're short fingers. So if you got longer fingers and you've got bigger hands, this might be worth your consideration because it's a fairly robust, good-sized knife, right? Fidgety goodness, like I said, 70. So we'll just go with that. Overall thoughts, and is it recommended? Well, overall thoughts, I think for the size, it's a big knife. If you're looking for a big knife, if you like big knives, it's definitely worth considering. I think it's made well. I think it's got a lot of good potential. It's a little too big for me, and that's just a reality. I'm not into gigantic big knives. I know some people are, and some people love big knives, but I want a big knife that I can handle and function and control, and the fact that I can almost sometimes fail flicking this open, and and because of that and the way it closes back on it, I just feel like it's just a finger chop and fingertip slice away from being an accident. And I would not recommend this knife for myself for my size hands. That's just me. But if you like big knives, I think you should definitely check this out. It's a lot of good quality about it. Is it going to be recommended? I mean, truth be told, It's my recommendation for what I like, okay? And so that's where I'm coming from. I'm not gonna recommend it. It's not gonna be one of my recommended knives just because of the size. Do I think it could be recommended for other people, larger hands? Absolutely. I'm just not gonna recommend it because, you know, this is my channel and my review and my impressions, and I wanna be honest. It's not a knife that I would be comfortable using. It's really big. If you've got gigantic hands, you know, this could be absolutely recommended. Do I think it's a really good, well-made knife? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really well made. And for a big knife, this functions and does, it executes. And if that's what you're looking for, this would definitely fit the bill, right? So there's that. Certainly can consider that for yourself. And that's kind of where I stand on it. Hey, what are your thoughts on this? Do you disagree? Do you agree? I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, maybe some of you guys have bigger hands and you feel like, yeah, it's perfect for me. That's awesome. Please share the comments down below. Some of you guys who maybe have same size or smaller size hands, do you like this and keep it in your collection? You think it's awesome? Let me know as well. I would love to hear your thoughts. And hey, if you found this interesting, this content fun, interesting, or worthwhile, would you please consider hitting the like button for this video? And if you've already hit that like button, would you consider hitting the subscribe button? Subscribing and liking my videos really helps out the channel a lot and helps me grow and be able to do more things, provide more content. And if you've done all of that, maybe consider hitting the notification button so you can be notified of future content when it is available. And if you've done all of that, hey, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.